Before we start, please support our channel by subscribing, and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. A crew of astronauts known as Ares in the year 2035-3 is on a mission to investigate Acidalia, Mars' Planitia region, and collect the samples in the region. They've looked around the area on their 31 solar day adventure. Day 18 has passed. Among the personnel are Commander Melissa Lewis, Mark Whitney, a botanist, and a systems operator Rick Martinez, pilot, Beth Johansson, Chris Beck, a flight surgeon, is a navigator, and Alex Vogel, a chemist. After some time, Johansson is informed that a significant dust storm will their Mars ascent vehicle to fall over. Therefore, Commander Lewis decides to abort their mission and orders the rest of the crew to return to the rocket as soon as possible. But as the crew evacuates, a satellite dish breaks off and strikes Whitney, knocking him out of sight of the rest of the crew. Commander Lewis tries to guide the others to find Whitney, but that becomes impossible as their visibility is very poor and the storm is too strong for them. Whitney is hence incorrectly assumed to be. They decide to depart the region without finding out who is him. The car was on the edge of tipping over. Fortunately, the surviving crew can barely manage. Depart for the Hermes, their circling ship. Teddy Sanders, the administrator of NASA, is on Earth. Announces at a press conference that the time Mark Whitney was missing in the crew his death was pronounced. Whitney awakes in the meanwhile 3 days following the storm. He is hurt, and his oxygen is low. Because of the stab wound to his stomach, an iron. He goes back to the surface habitat of the crew, aka Haven, promptly attends to his injuries. As Whitney recovers, he begins a video diary as a documentary that he is still alive on Mars and surviving alone on the planet. Since he is unable to communicate with Earth, his only chance of rescue is the next Mars mission. It will be 4 years before the Ares 4 will land 2,000 miles away at the Schiaparelli crater. Not only that, his other concern right now is the food supply. On Sol 21, he starts gathering the last of the organized food supplies and establish a timetable so that the longest food shelf life is achievable. That moment, as a botanist, he comes up with a brilliant concept. He starts organizing and repairing the solar panels, cleaning the hab, which is a disaster, and getting ready the interior terrain as a crop field. On Sol 24, his farm field has been completely prepared. Another issue appears on Sol 36, when there is not enough water available. Fortunately, he has another idea for manufacturing water from leftover rocket fuel. He combines oxygen and hydrogen, which are ignited together. Unfortunately, his first attempt has failed, causing a moderate explosion that singes his clothes and hair. However, his experiment is successful after lowering the oxygen levels in the second attempt. Whitney finds a lot of water in the morning. His potato farm's plastic roof was damp with dew. It turns out that his potato on Sol 54, the Mars farm, is beginning to produce. At the same time, he is thrilled since this is the first plant to have ever grown on Earth. Sanders has recently arrived back on planet Earth after he spoke during the Mark Whitney Memorial Service. Regarding Whitney's commitment to the task, NASA's Vincent Kapoor, the director of Mars missions, queries Sanders' requests that the body of Whitney be found on Mars, but declines due to the satellite public feeds that show images of they would consider Whitney's body to be a political problem. Later, one of the NASA's satellite planners is reviewing the satellite images. Surprisingly, she discovers evidence of activity on Mars in recent days. The solar panels have been cleaned and the rover has moved. She then presents her conclusions. Victor and the other NASA executives, but they decide to conceal it from the Ares 3 crew so that they can stay committed to their goal. Going back to Whitney, he is still working on. He continues to record the video while eating his food. Plans and strategies for using a rover to reach the crater Schiaparelli. In light of the battery powered because he can't travel the entire distance, rover making changes to the rover to include solar cells and more batteries. Additionally, the food supply to be brought must be plenty considering the distance is projected to require 30 days. Whitney eventually takes the rover on a 1-month journey to retrieve the Pathfinder probe, which fell silent in 1997. He digs the old probe out of the sand, spreads its solar panels to charge the batteries, and finally discovers that the probe still works. Using handwritten signs for the Pathfinder's camera, he establishes visual contact with NASA, confirming that he is still alive. A hexadecimal code is then generated by Whitney, and transmits the code to the ground. Consequently, NASA sends a software update to connect Pathfinder with the rover, which permits him to text others. As well learns that the crew of Ares 3 is still in the dark. Despite being dead, he answers by swearing. As Sanders consequently approves the flight, Mitch Henderson, Ares 3's director will enlighten the crew members who confirmed Watney's survival, and for the previous 2 years, NASA has withheld it from them months to avoid deterring them from their goal. Watney's situation starts to worsen in the meantime. When the airlock of the HAB blows away, exposing the HAB to the hostile environment at Mars, which kills every potato plant. With less food, he now estimates he can last less than 300 sols. On Sol 154, he is running out of food. Inevitably, he has to ration his food by eating once every 3 days. On the other hand, NASA works overtime and quickly launch a rocket filled with food to resupply Watney so he can survive until Ares 4's arrival. Regrettably, the rocket explodes shortly after takeoff as directed by Sanders to skip the standard safety assessments. Watney is in total despair in Sol 186 because it's challenging to live. He is malnourished, and at this time, he is out of food reserves. While this was going on, the directors of the witnessed by the China National Space Administration the blast and delivered on providing assistance to NASA the Taiyang-Shen, a covert booster rocket. The choice to employ the booster rocket is made to replenish Watney. However, an astrodynamicist, Rich Purnell, devises an alternative plan for NASA. The plan is to have the Taiyang-Shen rendezvous with and resupply the Hermes, which will then use Earth's gravity to slingshot back to Mars 2 years earlier than Ares 4. Initially, Sanders rejects the proposal because it would be too dangerous for the Hermes crew will prolong their journey by countless days. Additionally, Henderson sends Purnell's idea to the in secret crew and the crew discuss it right away. They are aware that the covert arrival of the plan denotes NASA's disapproval of it. Finally, Commander Lewis requests a united decision, and they all concur to leave without requesting NASA approval. Back for Watney. Johansson breaks into NASA's computers to shut them down. Using remote controls and changing the course stat because of this, Sanders is very angry with Henderson, who is assumed to have sent the plan to Hermes. He explains that his priority for NASA is to keep flying, and the bad publicity that would ensue if Purnell's plan fails would likely reduce NASA's budget for years to come. At the end, he is forced to support the crew publicly, but he also requests for Henderson's resignation when the mission is completed. Watney had lost a lot of weight after 7 months on Mars. Has gained a lot of facial hair and weight. He makes a video before setting out on his quest. In his journal, Commander Lewis begs his parents to recognize his fate. Soon after, NASA sent him instructions for making significant changes to the rover, further perplexing Watney. The 90 Sol trek to Schiaparelli finally starts, where the Ares 4 Mars ascent vehicle has been pre-positioned. On his long adventure, Watney every day for 13 hours to sleep, and solar panels are used to recharge the rover's batteries. In NASA's base, they explain that the gravitational force on Mars is very big, and the Mars ascent vehicle which Watney will use does not have an additional rocket to reach Hermes' orbit. The only way this can be done is to considerably lighten the vehicle by removing the roof, windows, passenger seat, and some heavy components. This Mars ascent vehicle will later be controlled by Martinez from Hermes. Watney eventually makes it to the Sol 538 location. He then starts disassembling the ascension vehicle as instructed by NASA. Martinez flies the vehicle by as soon as it is prepared. Watney was launched into space by remote control. Unluckily, the car runs out of petrol, and it comes too low to touch down on the Hermes spacecraft. Commander Lewis rapidly improvises as a result by utilizing an explosive made of sugar and oxygen to blow the front air to violently escape via the opening, slowing the Hermes down. She then makes the decision to utilize a tethered manned combat vehicle to reach Watney, but she is still unable to sufficiently close to him. Hence, Watney pierces his pressure suit to propel himself toward Lewis with the escaping air. Due to his poor control, he initially misses her. Fortunately, he encounters the tether when he runs. Momentum leads him to swivel around, and the crew is able to bring them back thanks to Lewis. Inside the spacecraft, Commander Lewis acted right away. Declares to NASA that Watney has been recovered. Upon his return to Earth, Watney changes into an astronaut. Hopefuls receive instruction on survival. He shares with them all of his troubles. Atop Mars. At the end of the film, it is clear that those connected to Watney's are viewed in their present-day lifestyles after rescue. Ares 5 is about to launch concurrently, thus Martinez, who is in charge of the mission,